Start your engines.
Indycar's close season lasts for 160 days. No racing, but intense activity over 5 months. Nigel Mansell has been testing the 1994 version of his Newman-Haas Lola with huge success. The 1993 championship was a triumph for teamwork, with manager Jim McGee an integral part. But 1994 looks like being the most competitive yet. Emerson Fittipaldi's back. Another Brazilian will be there, Raul Boesel. Paul Tracy, the 25-year-old Canadian. Nigel's teammate Mario Andretti. Alan Sir Jr. is now with Penske. Another Canadian, Scott Goodyear. This is Robbie Gordon. Stefan Johansson from Sweden. There's a Dutchman, Arie Luyendyk. And Michael Andretti returns. Plus the ever-popular Bobby Rahal. He won the championship in 1992, started slowly in 1993, but with Honda power could be a real force in 1994.
Well, good morning. We're speaking to you from Sebring. This is the last test before the season gets underway. In 1994, there's been a few new things happening. One, not least, is the joining of James Allen to the crew. He's going to be working with us through the year and is going to be bringing you the latest track topics, literally from the pits. What are you most looking forward to this year, James?
Well, thank you very much, Nigel. I'm really looking forward to this season. It's going to be so exciting, probably the most competitive ever. And I'm really looking forward to the oval races, where you certainly won your fair share of races last year. Let's take another look at how he won his championship.
Nigel rounded off his 1992 Formula One championship in Australia. 5 months later, he was back to begin his Indycar challenge, not in Adelaide, but on Queensland's Gold Coast. The huge media interest in the race was unprecedented, and there was only one reason for that, of course. Mr. Mansell himself. There was much talk of 1993 being a season of new experiences, though perhaps not all as different as this at SeaWorld. Winning pole position at Surfers ensured the first point and the first dollars of the new season. But the first rolling start and first suddenly became third. Back to second, then past Fittipaldi for the lead, Red 5 holding the corner. And after 65 eventful laps, it was Mansell first, Fittipaldi second. Nigel the first driver to win on his debut since Graham Hill at Indianapolis in 1966. After the big crash at Phoenix and thirds at Long Beach and Indianapolis, Milwaukee was next for Nigel Mansell. With the Florida schools out, Greg, Leo and Chloe called in to see Dad at work. Milwaukee staged only a week after the grueling 500-miler at Indianapolis. By contrast, this was a 90-minute sprint around the 4 banked turns. Qualifying was incredibly competitive. Nigel started 7th, but he was only 7/10 of a second off the pole. Penske's Paul Tracy had won at Long Beach. Nigel, leading the championship, was after his first win on an oval, having been leading at Indianapolis, only to be overtaken on a restart after a late yellow. Mansell led the early stages. Back in the pack, Newman-Haas teammates Mario Andretti and Nigel Mansell ran together in 6th and 7th. It was time for Nigel to launch his attack. He started to work his way through the field. Up front, Mansell lost the lead to Goodyear, then Goodyear dropped back and Tracy took over. It all built up to a brilliant climax. Mansell went back in front again, but by lap 182, Red 5 had taken the lead for the first time. With 3 laps to go, a brief caution was lifted, and this time Nigel Mansell made no mistake, seeing off the challenge of Mansell and sprinting for the checkered flag. Huge delight in the cockpit and the pit lane as Nigel claimed his first victory on an oval circuit. A victory that marked a tremendous breakthrough in the season, and everyone at the track realised its significance. Anything was now possible. This was the immediate reward, but with 2/3 of the season to go, it was still early days. Although a championship lead of 18 points over Mansell looked healthy enough. The Penskes were also in contention. Newman-Haas, based in Lincolnshire, Illinois, co-owned by actor Paul Newman and his partner Carl Haas. They were the driving force behind Nigel Mansell's arrival in Indycar racing for 1993. Penske from Pennsylvania. They have a fine pedigree too. In Emerson Fittipaldi, a gifted driver at the peak of his form. It was now a question of which team could achieve real consistency. Mount Hood provides one of the most spectacular settings of any racetrack. Battle was now joined between the Penskes and Newman-Haas. Nigel snatched pole position, but Emerson was only 1/10 of a second slower. At Portland, we saw 2 masters at work. A fascinating, exciting race developed, but an illustration that the Penske cars were improving. Nigel Mansell lost second place and then regained it and was challenged again. Eventually, Fittipaldi took the flag 4 seconds ahead. The halfway point of the season at Cleveland's Burke Lakefront Airport. Here, Tracy took pole position. He lost first place briefly, but fought back to retake the lead. It was then Mansell versus Fittipaldi. Champion against champion for second place. A tremendous high-speed scrap, with Nigel refusing to be denied, although his car was not handling properly. It was brilliant entertainment. In one spell of 6 laps, they swapped position 5 times. Like a heavyweight title fight, said one report. It was a great exhibition of top-class motor racing, Indycar at its best. Tracy was first, but the attention of the crowd had been centred on Emerson and Nigel. At the halfway point of the championship, Mansell led by 14 points. A blank for Nigel in Toronto meant Fittipaldi headed the championship as the teams prepared at Michigan in August, the second 500-miler of the season after Indianapolis, and this on the most daunting circuit of all. Nigel needed a win here, but the pressure was not telling. talking tactics with race engineer Peter Gibbons. Before the problems came, Nigel picked up a bug and felt unwell for the whole of the weekend. The latest development had produced extra power for the Cosworth engine, essential for Michigan, but still requiring a concentrated effort from team and driver. Tough going for Nigel.
I don't feel too good. Hey, we got about 85 laps to go. You don't reset the meter if you want.
He was feeling sick and had a splitting headache. Aspirin was added to his water bottle to help ease the pain. Mario Andretti's stop was quicker, so the two Newman-Haas cars were on the same lap. Steeling himself to see the job through, Nigel held on to the lead, but it was never easy.
Hell of a job, great job. That really puts us up in the points. Super.
A splendid victory that did so much for morale after a couple of disappointments. Nigel's first win for almost 2 months, and his first in a 500-miler on a super speedway. Undoubtedly one of the best of his whole career. Just a week later, the New Hampshire race coincided with Nigel's 40th birthday. Having recovered after the previous weekend, Nigel was in prime form, and so too, it seemed, was Emo. A dream weekend in New England for Nigel. A birthday and a win too, as he swept past Mario and took on the Penske's. A delay in the pits had dropped Red 5 to third, but he closed until only 0.3 of a second covered the top three. Overtook Fittipaldi. Tracy was still ahead. They swapped positions, and then Mansell pounced again, with the checkered flag being prepared.
Oh, this is it. Mansell takes the lead with 4 laps to go. What a move.
Another magnificent race. One veteran commentator said it was the best he'd seen in 60 years of motor racing. Nigel's second successive win on an oval.
What a birthday present you gave us. Great job. Great job. Fantastic. What a great race that was. Fantastic, Paul. Fantastic, Everton.
Paul Tracy summed it all up. White knuckle, let's get on with it, serious racing, he said. It was turning into a vintage year. And the family was there too for a share in the victory lane delight. The result of back-to-back wins at Michigan and New England, a championship lead of 25 points over Fittipaldi. The championship decider on Andretti home territory at Nazareth. Before the race, Nigel announced that he'd be staying at Newman-Haas for 2 more seasons. With qualifying cancelled because of heavy rain, the grid lined up in championship order. Nigel Mansell and Emerson Fittipaldi on the front row. Fittipaldi was 14 points adrift with 2 races left, a maximum of 43 points available to him. He needed a win here, or it was curtains. A year ago, Roseanne Mansell had seen her husband achieve his life's ambition, the Formula One world title. Now he was on the verge of holding both the Formula One and the Indy title simultaneously. Nobody had done that before. Fittipaldi, the only man who could prevent it. And so it was down to 200 laps of the 1 mile oval on a September Sunday to decide the title. It began badly for Nigel. He dropped back to fourth from first with the car handling badly. Then he began to recover, taking Mansell for third and then Fittipaldi for second. Tracy, though, was still ahead.
Now he is beginning to challenge Paul Tracy. So here is a fight for the lead, and look at him dial inside of Tracy. The crowd comes to their feet and begins to cheer as Mansell comes into the lead.
Nigel in charge, avoiding problems on the crowded track and heading for victory. Fittipaldi was running fifth. He needed a fourth place finish to keep his now remote title hopes alive. Mission accomplished, half a lap ahead of the rest of the field. Realization dawns on Paul Newman. Roseanne thrilled and delighted, and this just the start of the celebrations. A rookie had clinched the title. Nigel Mansell, the first Englishman, the first rookie to win the championship since it all began back in 1916. Nigel Mansell, the Indycar champion.
Well, that was last season, but for 1994, Nigel, the Newman-Haas team, Lola and Ford Cosworth all knew they needed to come up with something special if they were going to retain the title. Nigel also knew he needed to get really fit. He's taken up karate, and he's now looking over his new car with his personal karate instructor.
Rick is a fifth Dan in karate, my sensei, and he beats me up good at times. But I mean, it's the first time you've been in an IndyCar. What's it feel like?
Confining.
But what I'm going to do now, while Rick is having some photographs taken, and it's the safest place to have him, by the way, locked up under key, I'll take you around the car, so follow me around the car. What we have this year in 1994 is a complete new Lola. It's a new design, totally, suspension, aerodynamics, and the whole thing, if you look at it at the front, aerodynamically it's far superior. And as you can see at the back end here, I'm not going to be specific today. I mean, maybe later on in the year when we've got a few races under our belt, I'll be more specific in areas of the car. The reason for that is that there's some real sensitive areas to this car where we don't want the competitors to catch up with us. Because as you know, if you stand still for 1 week, you go backwards in motor racing. But this area here is very significant. It's much lower. We have a transverse gearbox underneath here. Last year's car, we had the gearbox sticking out the back 21 inches, and it weighed 150 pounds in weight. Now that weight has been cut off and it's been moved forward, so you know the whole C of G of the car is a little bit different. Very, very good part. Also with that comes an aerodynamic advantage. The rear wing is still covered up because that's another sensitive area which we won't talk about, but it's our design. And then basically, as you can see, the configuration of the car is very, very similar. A lot of developments over the winter, even with the helmets. As you can see, this is the RI helmet, which I believe is the best helmet still currently in the world. We obviously have an air intake here, and this is aerodynamic to try and keep the helmet centered. But then we've grown these ears over the winter. We could call them Mickey Mouse ears, and aerodynamically on the super speedways, it keeps the helmet steady. It stops your head from rocking from side to side. And it works very, very well indeed. But nothing stands still, and in point of fact, I've got another helmet with different ears which come up here. So we have a helmet now for super speedways, which are the two races we have at Indianapolis and Michigan 500. I have another design helmet now for the 1 mile ovals. And then I have another helmet which is designed especially for street courses. So I mean, the development just doesn't stand still with the car or the engine, it even comes into the helmet.
Still waiting for that sunrise?
On cool, bleak mornings like this at Sebring in Florida, the heady days of last season seem more than a few months away. The crew arrives for work at the open, drafty airport circuit. So far, almost 2,000 miles of testing have been completed. Lowered gently out of the transporter, not Red 5 anymore, the new Lola Ford carries number 1. denoting Nigel's status as Indycar champion. The wings remain covered from prying eyes and lenses. Even when they're not fired up and running, racing cars have character and personality. Grown men, brilliant mechanics and engineers talk to them, and they expect a reply.
It's a gearbox, isn't it?
Nigel's arrival from Clearwater on the west coast of Florida, a short hop to Sebring in the middle of the state. His jet is American registered, but there's no doubt about the nationality of its owner. So preparations for the test run begin. Last-minute adjustments performed swiftly and accurately. With the first race, Surfers Paradise, only a matter of days away, final testing takes on special importance. The crew's the same as last year, with Chief Mechanic Tom Wirtz overseeing operations. Easing into the cockpit, of necessity a trim fit. There's no space to be wasted, and the bodywork is tailored to mould around the driver. Sebring has been used as a race and test circuit for over 40 years. Some illustrious names have been seen here, Fangio, Moss and Hawthorne amongst them. Add another to the list. The familiar bark of the Cosworth engine shatters the still morning. The team chose Sebring for practice because it's a mixture of fast straights but still tests the car in tight turns. A chicane is simulated with traffic cones. One of the criticisms of the car last year was its lack of grip compared with the Penske's. The repositioning of the gearbox and the stiffer chassis, and this car seems to be a distinct improvement on last year's championship winner. At the end of the morning session, Nigel has assessed the handling characteristics. Describes them to his race engineer, Peter Gibbons. Then it's time to meet some friends who've dropped in.
Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Lovely.
Enjoy that there, but the secret is you've got to walk back. Hey, come on in.
Thank you.
Mind a step over here.
According to the Duke of Wellington, his army marched on its stomach. The Newman-Haas team do little marching, but decent refreshment's a necessity through all the hard work and long hours. And then, after lunch, back to work. Another afternoon, hurtling around Sebring. The more testing miles in the bank, the fewer problems experienced during the season. That's motor racing's equivalent of Gary Player's golfing adage, the more I practice, the luckier I get. The The teams worked hard during the winter. Testing by definition can never be as exciting as racing. But winners are born and then made by practice and determination. And here's a team of winners.
Work with it. So we then know exactly what we're working with or not.
Nigel, you've set some lap records just about everywhere you've been. Take us through what's been achieved this winter in track testing.
Well, it's been quite phenomenal, really. I mean, we started off at Firebird West, which is in Phoenix, and we went approximately about 7-8 tenths quicker there. But the thing was, we got a feel of the new car, and it was very, very promising. Immediately then, we went on to the Phoenix Oval, which is perhaps not one of my favourite places for obvious reasons. And then we set a new track record there, and actually was the first person to do a sub 20-second lap, which is over 180 miles an hour average on a mile oval, which has never been done in America before. And then from there we went back to California, to Monterey, to Laguna Seca, where we actually struggled last year in the race. And we lowered that track record by a second a lap. And then we've finished the winter testing now here at Sebring in Florida, and I'm very pleased to say that with the same aerodynamic setup we had last year, we've gone almost 3 seconds a lap quicker, which is pretty phenomenal.
You're looking very fit and very healthy. What else have you been doing over the winter? You've been doing a lot of training?
I've been working real hard this winter because obviously the injury I sustained last year. And I'm as fit, if not fitter, than when I started the 1992 season in Formula One. And people who knew me over in Formula One will know what that means. I was very fit, very hungry, and a lot lighter. And I'm absolutely thrilled. I've been working out sometimes upwards of 5.5 hours a day. And when you say 5.5 hours, sometimes that only means 3, but I'm telling you it's 5.5 and sometimes 6 or 7. And I'm very, very pleased at the progress we've made.
You're going to be able to defend your championship in the manner in which you won it, which is what you've always wanted.
Absolutely.
How hungry does that make you this year?
Well, I mean, I had a decision process to make really in October, November of last year as how to set out the parameters for 1994. We didn't know what the new car was going to be like, whether it would be significantly better or a lot better. But the only thing I could control myself totally was my own personal fitness. And then you've got to get your motivation, because to dedicate 5 and sometimes 6 hours a day to fitness and training is, you have to manage your life and your family. And I've made that commitment because I'd really like to defend this championship, and you know, I'm told by a lot of people it hasn't been done in many, many years, so it'd be nice to try and achieve that.
Last year on the road courses and the street courses, you struggled a little bit compared to the ovals.
Yeah.
What was the problem then, and what's been done to put that right?
Well, I mean, there's a number of things really. Aerodynamically, last year's car was inferior. I think it was even inferior to the 92 car because some of the regulation changes. And I think the step forward that Lola have made now this winter with the new car is pretty phenomenal. I won't sort of quote percentages, but I mean, they have made a major contribution to you know, the exciting testing that we've actually had this year.
As you said, you went the first sub 20-second lap at PIR, Phoenix International Raceway.
That's quick.
Last year when you had your accident, you were going into that corner, turn 1, at 180 miles an hour. This year you went in and you sub 20-second lap at 190 miles an hour. How is that possible?
I know, it's actually 195 miles an hour. The engine's a little bit better, but the drag of the car is far less. The efficiency of this new car is far better, and so we've actually picked up over 10 miles an hour down the straight. You know, partly engine, but a lot with the car.
Last year at the end of the championship in San Francisco, you collected your award, Big Cup, rapturous applause there. And then over the winter you've collected a lot more awards. You've been on the David Letterman show, you're going on it again before Surfers Paradise. You seem to have been accepted by the American establishment. How much does that mean to you?
Well, I think it means everything, really. I mean, to be voted in my first year here driver of the year, totally, and to have the amount of votes that we actually got, and we won the ESPY Awards again, obviously going on the David Letterman show, and various other things that have happened are very, very important. I mean, more important than I understand because I'm not American. But certainly for the American sponsors is very, very significant indeed. And you know, the thing that's more important to me is the fans over here, and you know, they've accepted me and they've supported, and you know, we have a lot of exciting times, and that's very satisfying.
You've won 2 championships now. You know in your mind what it'll take to win this championship again. Can you put that into words for us?
Yeah, I mean, harder than ever. I mean, the thing is, there's more people, which we say, gunning for you. There's more people which have got more motivation to try and beat you. When you put 1 championship together, it's 1 championship. When you put 2, obviously it's the second one. And you know, it's amazing how people can raise their game. And I'd say in IndyCar racing from last year to this year, James, the standards have already gone far higher. People are paying very special attention to the way I do a slow down lap, for instance, and then I put a real hot lap in. And to my amazement, Jim McGee, the engineer, and Michael Andretti, for instance, coming back at Laguna Seca, they are actually copying some of the things I'm doing on the circuit now to try and get that 1 ultimate lap out of the tyres. Because obviously in Formula One we're used to qualifying tyres, or we did a lot of work with qualifying tyres, although they're banned now. And over here, even for a standard race tyre, what we call a control tyre, there's still only 1 ultimate lap. You can sort of get a real good time, and then the grip goes off just a little bit. And at the moment, I feel very comfortable trying to get that hot lap, but everyone else has copied what I'm doing now, and they're getting the hot laps too. So it's going to be a lot tougher, and you know, defending a championship is not like winning a championship. There's sort of a little bit more pressure there. There's bigger expectation. But the thing is, as I always said in my career, pressure is what you make it yourself. And I think some of the training I've done and new relationships I've just started this winter will help me a lot.
Well, it's your 2nd year in Indy cars. You feel obviously more comfortable with everything. You know everybody around. What thing are you most looking forward to in 1994?
Not getting lost. You know, arriving at airports in different states and knowing roughly where the hotel is and where the track is. And you know, there's a lot of anxious moments last year, taking the wrong turns off the motorways, which might sound, you know, minuscule to you, but it's just comfort zones. And then knowing really, you know, who are the good people and who are the people you got to be careful of, because you know, they work for the opposition or whatever. And I think all those comfort zones are very, very important. They're in place now. The whole year working together with the team, the boys, the mechanics, everybody knows everybody now, and just doing your job is far easier, so I'm thrilled about that.
Open pit. Engine going on us. We better shut it off, but we'll be ready to start it. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, drop it. Fire it up, fire it up, fire it up, fire it.
One of the most important elements in Nigel's success last year was the team manager, Jim McGee, the voice in Nigel's ears throughout the races, dictating the strategy to him. Jim, you've had a whole winter now to think back on what happened last year. How would you evaluate last year's success?
Well, I think it was an incredible season. Nigel, in his first year, with all of the new racing differences between IndyCar racing and Formula One, I think that the way he adapted was absolutely fantastic. I don't think anybody could have done as good a job as he did. He was very focused, even though during the season he had his injuries and his ups and downs, but over the whole season he did a fantastic job.
What sort of relationship do you have with him?
Well, we've gotten to know each other quite well, and Nigel really fits with the crew. You know, he's a real motivator as far as the way he operates with the team, and you know, the guys on the crew really love him, and you know, he's a real leader, you know, at Newman Haas, and we really enjoy him.
You've been setting some record times during the winter testing. How important is the feedback that the driver gives you particularly?
Extremely important, and Nigel's been very, very good in this, and especially now the fact that he knows the circuits we run and the different tracks. You know, his ability to set the car up and give us the feedback and the data that we need has been really great. And the new Lola is a tremendous car, and we're really anxiously looking forward to the start of the season.
What do you expect from Nigel and from your team this year?
Well, I think, you know, if we can give him the reliability and we give him the consistency and the pit stops that he needs and the strategy to win the races, I think that we could be pretty dominant this year, hopefully. although there is a lot of competition, you know, with Michael returning and the new Reynard cars and the Hondas coming into the series this year, it is going to be very competitive. But I think, you know, we're very pleased with our preseason testing, and I think we'll know a lot more after Australia.
Time now to cast an eye over Nigel's tough range of opponents as he defends his title in 1994. This is Emerson Fittipaldi. Brazilian-born, he now lives in Florida. He's 47 years old, a former Indycar and twice Formula One world champion. Great personality with that characteristic huge grin. In 1992, he won Surfers Paradise for Penske, and he was still in great form in 1993 when he took the Indy 500. He was first two at Mid-Ohio on his way to runner-up in the championship behind Nigel Mansell. Emerson Fittipaldi, popular, likeable, a great character. In a three-car team, Emerson's first Penske teammate this year is Paul Tracy. He's only 25 years old, from Toronto in Canada. He won 5 races in 1993, including Long Beach. But he also made some costly mistakes. Team boss Roger Penske knows he's a prodigious talent waiting to mature. Tracy's best moment of the year? Winning on his home ground at Toronto last July. Paul Tracy, undoubtedly the best of the young brigade. Another bespectacled driver, Bobby Rahal from Dublin, Ohio. He's 41 now. A disappointing start to the 1993 season, but he recovered well. He won at Nazareth in 1992 when he took the IndyCar title for the 3rd time. He sealed the championship at Laguna Seca. With Honda power for 1994, he and teammate Mike Groth could be contenders again this year. Another Brazilian, Raul Mansell. He's yet to win an IndyCar race, but he's shown consistent ability. Last year at Milwaukee, he won pole position and led for most laps. But in the end, he finished second to Nigel Mansell. Mansell stays with the improving Dick Simon racing team for 1994. The great Mario Andretti, former champion at both Formula One and IndyCar, Nigel's teammate at Newman Haas. He won his 52nd IndyCar victory at Phoenix last year. But he says he intends to retire at the end of the season. IndyCar racing without Mario Andretti? It's difficult to imagine. Alan Sir Jr., another man from a motor racing dynasty. He won the championship in 1990. But he took only one race last season. That was at Vancouver. He's changed colours for 1994. He's now in the 3-car Penske lineup and says the dream team intends to claim first, second and third at every race along with his new teammates Fittipaldi and Tracy. Scott Goodyear, 34 years old, but still labelled promising. He didn't win at all last year, but he was first at Michigan in 1992. This season, he's the lone star in Kenny Bernstein's team. AJ Foyt's protege, Robbie Gordon, who's also 34 now. He'll race with the Derek Walker team this season. Gordon came third at Surfers Paradise in the opening race last year. He's self-confident and brave despite various crashes. Last season, he went into the wall at Phoenix. And he did the same in practice this close season. He's undoubtedly talented. It's temperament that's under scrutiny now. The only Swede in the field, Stefan Johansson. Formula One experience with McLaren and Ferrari. No wins yet, but he did come third at Vancouver in 1993. Stefan Johansson is now 37, and the breakthrough for him has to come soon. From Ganassi to the Incandela Indy Regency team running Lola Ilmore's Dutchman Arie Luyendyk. A former Indy 500 winner, he also won at Nazareth in 1991. He's probably the best racing driver ever produced by Holland. He lives permanently now in Phoenix. Another European, Teo Fabi, born in Italy. He raced in Formula One with Brabham before he decided to make his career in the States. Rookie Jacques Villeneuve, famous name, son of the great Gilles, revered by all Ferrari fans. Indycars seem to attract famous racing families with Andrettis and Unsers. Mark Smith had a good first season despite a string of mechanical problems. 26 years old, he's got time on his side. Dominic Dobson's a fine all-rounder in American racing, but he made only 3 IndyCar appearances last year. Willie T. Ribbs picked up 9 points for the Cosby team last season. And returning to the fold, Michael Andretti, back from Formula One with McLaren, and now running with Chip Ganassi. He won at Laguna Seca in 1991 and took the championship outright. And so followed in the footsteps of his illustrious father Mario. The following year, he won at Laguna Seca again, but he was pipped in the championship this time by Bobby Rahal. The whole Andretti family goes racing, and Michael still takes advice from his vastly experienced dad. So that's how they shape up for 1994. They're all ready for Surfers Paradise.
Well, this is going to be the most competitive Indy season ever. Penske's got a 3-car dream team, Honda's arrived, there's a new chassis manufacturer, and Michael Andretti has come back from Formula One. That's a lot of stiff competition you've got there, Nigel. Which ones particularly are you looking out for?
I mean, it's quite incredible. I mean, the point I'd like to make at the moment, James, for everybody out there is that we actually have 36 drivers signed up for this season. And of the 36 drivers, only 30 cars and 30 drivers are going to be allowed to go to Australia. So the 6 drivers not going to be able to compete for the first race. So, I mean, it's just phenomenal. And, of course, the favourites at the moment, it's got to be the Penske team, as you said, the dream team. They've got Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, and now little Al there. I mean, you know, it's just incredible. And then, of course, Honda coming in as well. And they've got already, they're showing what they're prepared to do this year, because they've got 2 different engines already. They're making a special engine for Indianapolis that they can only use at 1 race. And it's just quite incredible. And then there's a few dark horses there, but of course there's the Newman Haas team, and we're the defending champions, and it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of excitement and a lot of fun.
In the late 1980s and the early 1990s, the name Honda was synonymous with success in Grand Prix racing. They won 6 consecutive Constructors' Championships before pulling out at the end of 1992. Well, now they've entered Indycars and they've chosen Bobby Rahal to come in with. Bobby, how did the deal come together?
Over many years, James. I actually started talking with the Honda people in 1989. Of course, all the information was very, informal, and it was just sort of educating or trying to give them as much information as possible. Obviously, they were in F1 big time then, but they're working awfully hard. And let's put it this way: they didn't win overnight in F1, but ultimately they did. And I think that's what makes us confident that we will, we'll figure sooner rather than later.
So, what are your objectives for 1994 then?
Well, win the championship. Whether that's possible or not, it's hard to say. As a team, we have to concentrate on developing the best chassis that we can, and if the engine is there, then we'll win races.
Well, Nigel's in his 2nd year this year. He knows the tracks, he knows the American way. He's got a very good-looking package. He's going to be tough to beat as well, isn't he?
He'll be tough to beat. You look at Penske. This year, there's 6 to 8 more cars per race, good cars, and I think it's going to be the toughest year ever in IndyCar racing. It should be extremely competitive. We expect it to be so we're working hard just like Nigel and everybody else.
All I can say is that Honda didn't come into bike racing to lose. They dominated that for a good number of years. They dominated Formula One for getting on for 6 years. And I don't think they've come to IndyCar racing to make the numbers up. I think they've come here to win. And we've got to keep a very close eye on them, because for sure, if not this year, probably next year, they'll have a strong engine.
And there's a newcomer attracting great attention. He's driving for Forsyth Green.
One of the most exciting new names in IndyCars this year is Jacques Villeneuve, the 22-year-old son of the legendary Gilles Villeneuve, the Ferrari Formula One driver. Jacques, you looking forward to your first season in IndyCars?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We've been testing a lot and we've had some good times. So I'm really looking forward for the first race.
You're using the new Reynard cars, of course, this year.
Yeah.
How is it?
Well, it's been from the first day. It felt good from the first day. We've had some mechanical problem, but so far it's been quick on a few tracks, and we've managed to get a hang of it. So I think it should be good.
Why did you decide to go into IndyCar racing rather than Formula One, where, of course, your father made his name?
Well, when I was in Japan, I had an offer to race in the Atlantic for a race in Quebec, and that race paid off because then I had a full deal with the Players Limited for the whole Atlantic season, and that brought me into IndyCar with them. So, it just depends where you got a good opportunity at a good level, and I think I had a great opportunity with the top team and top sponsor and so on, so I took it.
You've done a few tests and a few races, in fact, on ovals in the Toyota Atlantic Championship. But it's a different ball game in an Indy car. That's obviously going to be a major challenge for you, isn't it?
Yeah, well, with the Atlantic cars, we're mostly flat around the whole track, and with the Indy car, you get to the corner with much more speed, and you have to slow down a bit. So there's a big difference. Getting up to 3.9 Gs or 4 Gs is quite an impression in the first time.
Is it tough being called Villeneuve?
Yes and no. Yes, because there's a lot of pressure. Now it's much better. There used to be a lot of pressure, mostly at the beginning. But surely helped in a way to get some sponsor at the beginning. So, I wouldn't change it.
Well, of course, Nigel raced against Jacques Villeneuve's father, Gilles. He was an incredible racing driver, wasn't he?
I mean, absolutely, and a great friend and an incredible loss to motor racing. And to be here with his son, racing in the same formula is, a bit of a tingle goes down your back. But I wish him all the success in the world, and if there's any help I can give him, I'd be thrilled to. But it is a strange feeling.
The series goes out of North America just once to Surfers Paradise in Queensland, Australia, where Nigel Mansell pulled off that brilliant win last year, first time out. The first oval race is at Phoenix, Arizona, where Mario Andretti won in 1993. Then it's to California and the race around the streets of Long Beach, usually a close, exciting event. And of course, the jewel in the crown at the old Brickyard. The following week, they're off to Wisconsin for a 200-miler, another track with good memories for Nigel Mansell. Motor City in mid-June follows. Then it's across to the west coast, to Portland, Oregon. The halfway point of the season and the wide open runways of the Burke Lakefront Airport. The first visit of the year to Canada, Paul Tracy's hometown. Back into the States to Michigan for the grueling 500 there, vividly remembered for Nigel's brilliant first place last season. Then they're back for a second visit to the state of Ohio. Loudon in New Hampshire was the site of another great win for Nigel Mansell in 1993. Early September, it must be Canada and Vancouver. And a great race expected at Road America Elkhart Lake, usually regarded as Penske territory. The final oval venue and a last appearance there of Mario Andretti on his home track. And finally, Laguna Seca, California, rounding off the season. The testing season complete with another unofficial lap record. The team set off now for the long haul to Surfers Paradise. Nigel Mansell pulled off a remarkable first-time victory there last year. Can he repeat? Testing over, time for a little repartee with the crew.
Everyone, hey Norm.
Hey, recognize meeting you.
20 pounds.
Good to see you soon.
Yeah, all right. Take care.
Let's weigh him in.
Hey, we're weighing the car. Oh, no, we're not. No. Okay, let's give him 296. All right, partner, you got to be 270 then, all right?
Oh, it's done, man.
All right. I'm very, very excited. We have just finished our testing and we've just gone 3 seconds a lap quicker than we did last year. And it's all compliments to the team. It's a very, very good car. Ford and Cosworth have worked extremely hard with the engine development over the winter. But I'm really excited and I'm looking forward to the new season.
Thank you.
It's been a long winter waiting for the track action to begin. Now there's real anticipation of another sensational season IndyCar racing.